All right, everyone, how are you? Welcome to this week's episode of our podcast. It's called Is Breakfast Included? Thanks for stopping by. On the show this week, I talked to producer, songwriter, guitar player, and my very good friend, John Marlin. John is based out of Waxahachie, Texas. That's a little bit south of Dallas. He's a great guitar player, really good songwriter. He plays for Pat Green, but we dove a little bit deep into his past. He talked about how he got started playing, who his influences were. He is a southpaw guitar player, so we talked about the intricacies of being a southpaw. We talked about his current gig with Pat Green, how he got that, and how he's liking it. Then we told a bunch of good stories, man. John and I have known each other for a little over 10 years, and it was a lot of fun catching up with my friend. Let's check it out. Tell everyone who you are.
My name is John Marlin. I am a guitar player, musician, producer, songwriter. You know, just as well as anybody, you have to wear a lot of hats in the music business. So, I'm 30 years old. Somehow I've been able to do music more or less full time since graduating and live in Texas and just trying to keep doing the music thing.
Yeah, where are you from originally?
From Ennis, Texas.
Ooh,
Well, I was born in St. Louis, but I mean, lived in Texas since I was 5, so practically Texas,
yeah.
Texas raised.
And I grew up in Corsicana, and there was a big rivalry.
Really?
Yeah, growing up when I grew up in the 80s, and yeah, in the 80s, I remember we our school played you guys in basketball,
Uh-huh.
and of course we didn't have nothing. I wasn't a sports guy. That's where you go. You just go watch. And we walked into your gymnasium there in Ennis, and in big letters it said "Welcome to the jungle," and it was kind of intimidating.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, there was always a big rivalry between Corsicana High and Ennis High School.
Well, I imagine I know in football, like any Texas small town, football is the big thing and
Yeah,
just sports in general. So it's interesting kind of like figuring out how to pull off doing music in these towns that just it's all about sports, but I love
yeah.
sports too.
Yeah. With it, being from Ennis, man, like there's something in the water there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of cats came out of Ennis, or spent time in it. We were talking about Jude Martinez, uh,
Uh-huh.
Adam Carrillo, even Eric Zapata, who I just worked for on Gary
Yeah.
Clark, spent some time in Ennis.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's something in the water there yourself.
Well, two things. I have a random story about Eric that he probably doesn't remember, but Ennis, do you know if you look up Dimebag Darrell on Wikipedia, his birthplace is Ennis, which is random.
Yeah,
He's probably the most notable musician to come out of Ennis.
yeah.
But Eric, well, first off, congrats on that gig. Working with Gary Clark, I'm sure is pretty cool. But I don't know Eric super personally, but I bought an amp from Eric Johnson very randomly. Long time ago, and I had played this amp on the road for a while, and for whatever reason, it got to a point where I wasn't using it, and then I was like tempted to sell it just because I could use the money, and it was built at this place, Austin Vintage Guitars. I'm sure you know where that
Yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah.
But it's this Fulton Webb Tweed Twin amp that I had traded an amp with Eric Johnson. But anyway, I took it to go get repaired at Austin Vintage, and then I told my friend Jesse Duke, who was the tech there. I think he still is. But I was like, man, I don't necessarily like. I'm not like totally looking to sell it, but I'm like open to selling it too if something makes sense. And then Eric Zapata, he like just walked in Austin Vintage, and then he saw my amp. He's like, "Hey, what kind of amp is that?" Blah blah blah. And I told him the story of it. And he's just like, "Well, I'll buy it from you." And then he told me who he was, and then we had mutual friends, and we had a connection from Ennis. And I told him I was like, "Man, I've heard about you. We've never met, but." So anyway, long story short, I sold him that amp because I'm like, at least it's going to a cool person, and so
Yeah.
I would let. Oh, does he still have? It's a Tweed. It's an old Tweed amp. I don't
Well,
know if
he was
it's on the
recently
road.
he was playing two rock amps when I was out with him recently. Yeah.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Those things weigh a ton.
Oh yeah, totally.
First of all, I got a question, man. What did you have that Eric Johnson traded you his amp for?
Yeah, that's even more random. A friend of mine was helping an artist friend of his, a Texas country guy. He was moving to LA and he was like liquidating his gear that he had
Yeah,
in storage and he had a handful of amps. So my friend had asked me, he's like, "Can you help me sell these amps?" And there's this one custom amp. It was like a Fulton Webb, which is yeah, built out of Austin Vintage. And I played it for a little bit. It was a cool amp, it was a small little combo, and then put it on Craigslist and no bites. So I just ended up calling Austin Vintage, and I was like, "Hey, I've got one of these amps of yours that I'm trying to sell for a friend. If you know anybody, if you want to buy it back or know anybody looking for it, let me know." And then he's like, "Okay, cool. I'll keep that in mind." And then 2 days later, Eric Johnson gave me a phone call, which is the randomest thing. And
that's so great.
he was all timid. He's so humble, but he's like, "Hey, John, this is Eric Johnson," and just totally paused on it, and and then proceeded to ask about my amp, and I was like, "No shit, this is Eric Johnson," and so he proposed. He's like, I was like, "I'd love to try that amp, but would you just want to like swap amps? I've got a couple, whatever cool amps, and would you just want to swap?" I was like, "Sure," So we met up and we swapped amps and met up with him at a Straight Music Store in South Austin,
Yeah,
which is no longer there. But yeah, we met up and I tried his amp and it sounded awesome. And he had all the settings in Sharpie still on it, and they're all like dimed. And this is like an 80-watt high powered Tweed Twin, so it was just obnoxiously loud. But anyway, I played that on the road for a while and ended up buying it. So I paid my friend for the amp that he was selling. And yeah, and I met up with Eric twice and we talked on the phone a couple times, and such a cool guy, like so nice.
so
So
nice, so
very,
nice.
very random.
My best Eric Johnson story is I was at one of one of the guitar shows, the big guitar show in Dallas years
Yeah.
ago, and he was there and he was in Jimmy's booth and he was looking at this Marshall cab and he had the back taken off and he was looking at the speakers and he had a mirror, a little mirror, and he was looking at the cones. And this kid, probably about 12 or 13, just walked up and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he started explaining to this kid everything he was doing and why you needed to do that. And for about 30 minutes, maybe longer, like he just was so kind to this kid, like telling him, like, what you see that? That's what you're looking for, and it was so cool. Of course, I just sat there and watched the whole thing because I was
Yeah,
nosy. But, he's such a nice guy, Eric.
totally. And
Yeah.
he seems like a brilliant guy. And it was funny whenever he was telling me about his amps. Like, man, to me, like, I'm not super technical, so I know when something sounds good and I know when something doesn't, and but I kind of just turn knobs until it feels right, but I don't
Yeah.
really get too much under the hood. But Eric, he's like on this amp, he's like, um, see this switch here, you can change the tube bias, and this makes it more spongy, and this makes it more blah blah blah, and just the adjectives that he would use to describe tone and things like
Yeah.
that. Like he's so particular and so I don't know, tone conscious and all these sort of things. And especially I was like 22 at the time, so it's
Yeah.
like totally over my head and still is. But anyway, very cool stuff. He's a good dude.
So you just said at the beginning of this interview you're 30. So I must have
Mhm.
met you before you were even 20 because I've known
Yeah,
you for quite a. When did you start playing guitar?
I started playing. It was probably 11 or 12, and then started playing with other friends and started like a garage band when I was 14 or so.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
what did was music like a big thing in your household?
Not necessarily. My dad worked in music for a time, and and he's definitely like a music connoisseur, like as far as jazz goes and things
Mhm.
like that. But he didn't, he didn't really like push a lot of stuff on me, but I just knew he loved music. And my mom, she's like a painter and an artist. She took me to a lot of concerts, and we started to really bond over music. And I think that's what exposed me. Like my first concert was The Who. We went to go see The Who. We saw bands like AC/DC and Rush and the Police, and she just loved that sort of stuff. And so and then once I kind of got the music bug, like was real obsessed with a bunch of hard rock bands and things like that. And so she would take me to those concerts, which was funny looking back. But yeah, I got the music bug pretty quick, and just found some friends to just play loud, obnoxious rock music in the garage with.
Yeah, what was your first guitar? Because you're a lefty. So how hard was it?
Yeah,
Did you do the right-handed thing or did you
I
find a
I
left-handed guitar?
did. Yeah, my dad bought me a 3/4 scale Fender, like a Strat, and I guess I must have been probably 11 or so because I was still pretty tiny. He bought me, yeah, this 3/4 scale Strat, and we just flipped it upside down. And he strung it upside down for me. And then once he saw that, like I actually I stayed interested in it. It
Yeah,
didn't just then he's like, okay, and then bought me like a proper lefty guitar, like that following Christmas. So
yeah. How
yeah,
hard was it? Because I mean, well, I guess it wasn't that hard because me growing up, it was really hard to find left-handed guitars. Not that I'm left-handed, but I knew some cats that were, and they
yeah,
always did the upside down, the inverted, just
yeah.
that. So around, what was it very hard finding a left-handed
Um,
model?
he had ordered one. But once I did get to the point of being more particular and wanting an SG or whatever kind of guitar it was. I mean, it was hard to find them locally for sure, but we
Yeah,
could order them. But it's funny now, like with lefties, they're out there, and you can get great deals on them because they're just hard to resell.
yeah,
It's like it's got to be like less than 3 or 4% of the guitar player market, I would imagine.
yeah,
Because there's a lot of people that are left-handed, um, that are left-handed everything else, but with guitar they actually still play right-handed. Because if you
yeah,
think about it, it's pretty an ambidextrous instrument. So
yeah, yeah, yeah,
so if there's 10% of the population that's left-handed, I think it's even less for guitar players just because a lot of them end up learning right-handed.
yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I've been able to get a bunch of good deals on lefties like online, but the problem is I can never resell them. Like
Yeah.
I've had guitars listed for like literally a year because
Right.
there's no bites.
Yeah, there's a place, I think it's in Houston, that kind of specifically deals with left-handed guitars.
Dude, I just went there like a month ago. We for the first time we played in Katy, just west of Houston,
Yeah,
and we were like 30 minutes from Southpaw Guitar. So it's like I have to take an Uber, and I took an Uber there, and yeah, it's just it's must be the same feeling that every other person has going into a normal Guitar Center, and just for the first time, I'm just like, oh wow, I can play everything here, and because my whole life, like going into a Guitar Center or something like that, was kind of a letdown because there'd be hundreds of guitars and maybe at most like 3 or 4 lefties, and they're never good. They're never like the top shelf ones.
yeah,
So that was the first time that I got to go sit down and played like 5 or 6 different like J45s and just real high end like guitars, and I'm like, wow, this is incredible. This is awesome.
yeah. You could play anything in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was your first band? Your first real band? Like you jammed with your friends, like you said, but what was your first real like gig?
Um, so my story is kind of interesting. Like I never quite had an original band. I started playing and jamming and having a garage band with a couple of my buddies. We did go and like record some music, and we started recording, but like we could never find a singer, and it kind of like, you know, we could never kind of get it off the ground and go play live shows. But meanwhile, at that time, I kind of went straight into the side guy route.
Yeah,
Because the guys that I was hanging out with, I started hanging out with. We were talking about Jude Martinez, and Adam Carrillo and Donnie Urlis, and they had their rock bands, but they had started playing. by the time I started hanging out with them, they were starting to play in country bands because country rock was a real thing. And so I was just like, man, I just want to play. I just want to play with you guys. So ended up playing rhythm guitar in one of the bands that they were in. There was this girl named Ashley Lee who was doing Texas country at the time.
Yeah.
Then I would say that was probably my first real band. But again, it was an artist, and there's like the backing band sort of thing. From there, I played with Big Joe Walker, who we were talking about, where we met.
Yeah.
I'd filled in for an artist named Mark McKinney a few times because Jude was playing with them, and I was hanging out with them, and
Yeah.
Jude had to have a surgery or something, so he vouched for me to let me go fill in on guitar with them, and he was a real established Texas country guy. Then from then on, and I would play with a handful of local artists. But then I guess the first bigger gig I got was a guy named Bart Crow, who's in the Texas country scene.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I started playing with him when I was like 19, and that was like a bus gig and stuff. So, man, I remember at that time just being so like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I'm playing in a band. We're on a bus. We're traveling to out of state, and it was the coolest thing. And the other musicians too. They're real established musicians. They're all older than me, and all that to say is I kind of went straight into the side guy route.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I did try really hard to have like an original rock band, but I could just never get it going.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was in your eyes? Were you just happy you were able to make like you were making a living playing
Uh,
guitar
yeah, yeah,
out of your teens? That's pretty cool.
yeah.
Did you still kind of like want to do your own thing? Is that
Yeah, for sure. And I've been able to scratch that itch a lot with songwriting and producing and working with other people in that capacity. And I've even put out some of my own music. But I still have yet to have like a band. So
Yeah.
one thing that I'm trying to put out to the universe is like having some sort of indie rock band or some sort of fun side project that hopefully I can make happen at some point. But yeah, but man, I was just grateful to be able to play music live, and have that as like a kind of a full-time deal. But I didn't grow up on country, so it's kind of like an adjustment. It's funny because like all these guys, they'd reference people like Garth Brooks or whoever, and I would just have no idea who they were. And I was just like, I don't even know who George Strait is, and just because none of that was in the household ever. Like my
Yeah.
parents never listened to country, and then since I've learned to love it, and especially just like now, country is such a culmination of every genre. I feel like in America, there's really like there's country and there's pop, and then everything else just like is somehow under those umbrellas. And there's
Yeah.
rock too, obviously, but even country has like there's really hard rock country artists, which is
Yeah.
fun.
Tom Petty
But
used to say, "Today's country is just a rock band with a fiddle."
100%, yeah, that's pretty accurate.
you know, um, man. After Bart Crow, I remember you and I hit it off really well when you were with Joe, and I always kept up on what you were doing. But I was really happy for you when you started playing with Granger Smith
Hmm.
because I mean at the time he was independent artist and he was
Yeah,
huge. What
yeah,
was that like stepping out of, Bart Crow was a big Texas guy, but Granger was
yeah,
pulling in crowds everywhere.
yeah,
And he had
man,
this alter ego.
yeah. What was funny about that is I had crossed paths with them. I was opening on guitar with an artist named Brian Keene once, who's a super close friend now. But we had opened for Granger one time in probably 2014 or so, right before I started with Bart. And then I had like kind of got like right that was right whenever Granger had started taking off, and his alter ego was a big thing. And I remember us opening the show and just the kind of crowd that came in, and these guys dressed in Earl Dibbles is in the overalls and things like that, and then like the drummer, had, his big double kick drum, huge like kit, like Neil Peart or something. And I was just like, what is going on? This is crazy. And but yeah, fast forward is Granger was a friend of mine had connected me with Granger because he was looking for a guitar player, and we hit it off. And I wasn't really too aware of him because he was kind of more doing a little bit more mainstream route. And you
Yeah.
probably know that there's like Texas country, and that's kind of its own thing. And then everything else, I guess you would just call mainstream or whatever.
Yeah.
Like he's
Yeah.
he's from Texas, but he wasn't necessarily Texas country. He was playing everywhere else and whatnot. But anyway, listening to his music, I was like, man, this is awesome. It's kind of more rockin'.
Yeah.
And just real polished. And I just love, I love a lot of that sort of thing. But yeah, I started playing with Granger in 2016, and the crazy thing about that is, the first week, I had hopped on with him. The very first week, we had played like Today Show, we had played Fox and Friends. Like a couple weeks later, we had played Jimmy Kimmel, because that first week, like his first radio single had gone number one
Yeah.
or something. And and how I got that gig was, he was on the road and we didn't have time to meet up, so he just asked me to like send videos. And what he was really interested in was, like, he knew that, I could play I could play the stuff, but he was more interested in somebody that's like going to dissect parts and know how to play guitar parts and the different things. And so I had sent him a video of playing a couple of his songs, but I would do like, okay, like the intro, there's the riff, but then maybe the second verse or the chorus, like here's this little chimey guy underneath, and just basically try and pick out all the different guitar parts just to show that, like, could do any of that, and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
in a gig like that, it's kind of more about playing the arrangement and knowing how to, you know, just play the parts and not be, a noodle salad over the,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
it's like anybody can do that. But anyway, yeah, I played with Granger for 6 years, and we eventually ended up doing a lot of writing together, and I produced some of his stuff, and I had a lot of fun with that creatively because we had like a big production show, and I was building and recording like intro tracks and transition tracks, and man, it's just so much fun. Like I can't say enough good things about
Was that
those.
a way to scratch the itch? Is
For
doing all
sure,
that extra, kind of taking it,
absolutely.
yeah, taking ownership of that.
Totally, yeah. And then he was very welcoming and embraced that, which is really nice. So, I got to be more involved, and yeah, so
I
fun.
remember around 2006, 17, 16, I ran into you at Stagecoach.
Yeah.
You guys, you guys were playing Stagecoach. I was working for Jason Isbell, and
Uh-huh.
you guys were doing the big stage.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, man, I remember texting Adam like, dude, yeah, I just ran into John. It's so cool,
Yeah.
here. And I was so proud of you, man. It's always good to run into somebody from back home,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and see that they're doing well, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Likewise, man. Man, Stagecoach was so cool. And that's awesome that I forgot you were with Jason Isbell for a while
yeah,
too. Like
yeah.
you've done it all, dude.
Nah. But I do remember that and thinking like it was a great gig for you. I would watch the live videos on YouTube, and you fit in so well with Granger's whole aesthetic of what was going on. And I
Yeah.
always thought you were just a country guy because I met you, I didn't know any of this about you. You were a rock guy. So
Yeah. Well, it's funny because like I've somehow been able to skirt the whole like more traditional country sort of thing. Like every country band that I've been with is a bit more southern rock
yeah,
or that sort of thing. So to this day, like I mean, there'd always be like some of the more traditional songs that kind of scratch that itch for an artist. And I could learn to play some chicken picking stuff just for that song, but
yeah,
by no means am I like really fluent with that. So as far as like country guitar goes, and just proper country guitar, I still feel like that's not totally my wheelhouse. It's all more like you're saying, like Tom Petty, sort of just good rhythm guitar, and nothing too crazy, but
yeah.
yeah.
a few years back, man, you kind of stepped away from the whole touring thing
Mm-hmm.
and kind of focused on writing, recording. Uh,
Yeah,
what 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 brought that on? Were you just kind of burnt out on touring, or
a little bit. It's a culmination of things. Whenever I was with Granger, I'd gotten exposed to the whole Nashville writing community,
yeah,
and within that, there's like writer producers, and that's a whole thing. So I started making trips to Nashville and kind of really got involved with that community and writing and recording. And it just got to a point that like I was making trips to Nashville monthly, um, alongside touring, alongside also just trying to be the most present dad I could be. And
yeah,
it just kind of got to a point to where I was like, man, I can't do all of these things well. Like something I need to be home as much as I can. And I was definitely was just feeling a season change too. So I ended up you know, telling Granger that I'd finish out the rest of the year, and just so I could focus more on the Nashville thing. And I was going, and I had like a publishing deal at the time, so I was going back and forth there. But me and Granger were still able to maintain like a creative relationship,
yeah,
and I we produced his record after that together. So I was like not in the band, but still kind of in a way. And so we still kept going. But then Granger, funny enough, like life kind of took him down a different path, and he um wanted to get off the road himself. So he ended up doing that like a year, maybe a year and a half later.
yeah. Stepped away from it all.
Yeah, yeah. So it kind of gave me a little bit of solace knowing just that was kind of going to come to an end anyway.
Yeah, yeah,
So, but yeah, so I stepped aside so I could focus more on the Nashville thing and just pursue writing and recording and growing in other areas, and then just being home and being, as my son's getting older, he's 11 now. I just want to prioritize just being home as often as possible. And I
yeah,
even don't really go to Nashville as much now for the same reason. I just want to be home, and being dad is number one.
yeah. Well, I have always admired that about you too, man. You were a young dad,
Very much so. Yeah.
but you've always maintained. I always admire how much you were present in your son's life. Like
Yeah.
like I said, dude, I'm not stalking you, but I do follow you. I keep
Man,
up
well,
with my peeps, man.
I appreciate that, man. That means
Yeah,
a bunch. But yeah, dude, like I love getting to travel and I love getting to have those experiences. But at the same time, like nothing really replaces family time, and especially whenever they're kids, like you can't get that time back. So but we all have to make trade-offs, and you know, we have whether we're gone traveling or whether we're just gone from 8 to 5 doing work, it's like
yeah,
we all have to do that. But just trying to be balanced like we all are.
yeah. And which brings me to what you're doing now, man, because I got my start with Pat Green.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
And my son was 7 or 8. He was in that age,
Nice.
and Pat gave me an opportunity to do weekend warrior stuff and be
Yeah.
home all week and raise my kid, you
Hmm.
know. And then I'd give him some food and leave for the weekend. No, my mother helped me during the weekend, but so that how did that come about, man? Working with Pat.
Yeah, man, I've well, I guess first off, the whole Weekend Warrior thing, that's I feel like a lot of Nashville people do that too, but I feel like that's definitely a Texas thing, and
Yeah,
it's a really cool balance to where you can have some routine and normalcy and
yeah,
structure in your life, and still get to do the music thing. So it is a really cool balance being able to like be at home 4 days, 5 days, go do the road thing, and then just having a routine, which is obviously hard with music.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But the whole Pat Green gig came around because I had been friends with a lot of people in those camp or in that camp for some time. I mean, and now like there's so many connections. I feel like so many people have worked with him. Like for instance, whenever I played with Bart, the bass player that was playing with Bart is a guy named Michael Terabay, who you're
T-Bay.
yeah, T-Bay. that's who played with Bart whenever I was with Bart. So like I got to know T-Bay really
Yeah.
well, and Justin Pollard, who we're still friends to this day and work on stuff. Pollard was producing some of Bart's things, but over time, one of my best friends, a guy named Michael Kelton, started playing drums for Pat, and he's been with Pat for about 8 years.
Uh-huh.
And Kelton's one of my oldest friends in music, and we like write and record together all the time. And we were yesterday actually, but he was playing drums for Pat, and then another one of my really close friends named Michael Tuck started playing guitar, rhythm guitar for him, and over the past few years, I'd filled in for him a couple times. Um, One time I filled in for Scrobot, which was fun. I got to go play electric and lead guitar. The
Yeah.
other time I'd filled in for Michael Tuck, just doing what I'm doing now. And then yeah, Michael Tuck ended up getting another gig. He's playing with a guy named Jake Worthington now, but
Okay.
he left that gig. And since I had been familiar with the camp already and they knew me, uh, instead of holding auditions, they just offered me to, if I wanted to take over Tuck's spot. And, Tuck's one of my best friends. So he was, he kind of, asked me before he was going to leave. He's like, if I leave this gig, like, do you want to take it? And it's funny. He was kind of nervous taking it too. So, or nervous, like leaving. So I
Yeah.
told him, I was like, man, I'll take over the gig, but, to make it a little bit easier for you, have some peace of mind, like, if for whatever reason you want your gig back, you can have it back, you know. But thankfully he's like super happy with this guy Jake Worthington. He's crushing it. He's a traditional, like real chicken picker guitar player. He's like a Texas Brent Mason. But
Okay.
anyway, yeah. So I've been playing with Pat for probably 3-4 months now, and Pat's his schedule is honestly perfect for a road gig for me, like in my season of life, because Pat, he's kind of in coast mode with his career to where
Yeah.
he's playing anywhere from like 7 to 10 gigs a month. A lot of them are private gigs, so I'd say full band, man. So far, it's been like 6 to 8 gigs a month.
Yeah.
So and they're all fairly close by. So it's been it's been pretty spoiling as far as like not having to be gone very much,
Yeah.
but then still have a consistent gig. So I'm super grateful for it.
Yeah.
And Pat's great. He's Pat is Pat. He's just a wild, fun dude, and everybody else is just great. I just
Yeah.
love getting to be around those guys, and I also love the camaraderie of being in a band, and just being on the road with guys. Like whenever I left the road, one of the biggest things that I didn't forecast was I got most of my socializing and like my social bucket, like that was all filled and coming from the road. So like whenever I got off the road, I was like, great, I've got all this time to myself. But I'm like, oh, I'm like not seeing anybody anymore.
Yeah, I
Like,
know.
and I didn't have to take it like I was kind of spoiled to where I didn't have to think about it. You're automatically in an environment where you're hanging around all your homies.
Yeah.
And so it was a switch for me to I'm like, oh, if I want to go hang out and go see my friends, like I've got to be proactive and initiate, you
Yeah.
know. So that was an adjustment. And but so now I really value that. And my favorite part about being on the road is just the small interactions, just hanging in the front lounge on the bus with everybody and shooting the shit. And I just that's my favorite part,
To hang.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Pat was my first gig. Um, Pat Pat changed my life.
Awesome.
Had I not been what I say in the wrong place at the right time,
Uh-huh.
my life would have been completely different. But Pat completely changed my life, and he's always been good to me.
Uh-huh.
He was always good to me, and I didn't care what stories I heard. I always told people, like Pat takes care of me. I'm
Yeah.
always going to be loyal to him.
Agreed, man.
I never say a bad word about the guy because he's always been good to me. Like you said, Justin and I became really tight
Yeah.
when I was in Pat's band. I love T-Bay. He's a handful sometimes, but I love him.
Yeah.
And I mean, I came on board looking after Scrobot. So everything I learned about being a tech, because I'd never done it before,
Uh-huh.
I learned from that guy because
That's awesome.
he knew so much about his gear that he taught me about tone. He taught me, I knew signal flow. I knew
Yeah.
if you go this way to this, but he taught me so much about being a tech. Him and Brett Danaher,
Yeah.
but working along Scrobot, who's this, you know, amazing guitar player.
He's
He's a
fantastic.
rock guy too, by the way.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
totally.
and
Yeah, he's got a cool history too that I didn't really know. And he played with a guy like a more like indie Americana-ish guy named like Aaron Tashin.
yeah,
And just he's done a lot of cool stuff that like yeah. Anyway, I totally admire his guitar playing, and you're right. He's super particular, and he's just got the best tone, especially for like
he knew what he wanted.
yeah, yeah,
And like I said, I was coming into this industry just completely green.
yeah, yeah.
And not to say that anybody on the crew didn't really, it was kind of a crew that was like your buddies. But
Hmm.
I came in and I thought, well, this is going to be what I do. I got to learn this. And Chris Scrobot really was, I give him credit. A lot of what I do to this day is because of him. You know,
That's
the
awesome.
things I do every day are because that's how Chris showed me how to do it and
Hmm.
explained it to me. I remember sitting on the bus. He played 65 amps.
Hmm.
He had a 65 Soho. And I remember we were on the bus at the old um, House of Blues on Sunset Strip.
Uh-huh.
And one of the guys from 65 came out to see him, and we were sitting on the bus. And I could have swore I was talking to a couple of gun dealers because they were like talking about tubes. And they were like, yeah, I've got a guy in Russia and he gets them here for me and this and that. And they're talking about this shit like they're smuggling it in the States. And
Yeah.
they were complete tone heads. And I remember my eyes glazing over and going, I got to get off this bus.
That's funny.
I don't want to get, you know, this is too intense for me. But yeah, so it was those kind of conversations he would have with me, directional cables and, you know,
Yeah, yeah, he knows his stuff, and it's funny the tone conversations. It's like
man,
I love having them, but it's funny. But it is a deep well, and it's there's been a few times to where me and him get into like some nerd conversation about guitar tone or something in the front lounge, and then a couple of the guys will just be like, "All right, it's talking tone, so I'm gonna go to the bunk,
yeah.
I'm gonna
He
get
was
out
the
of here."
he was the first guy I ever met that paid over $100 for guitar cables. And he was telling,
That's right.
and they were like 150 bucks, and he was so proud of them, and they were directional. He was explaining it. We put tape on them. He's like, this is where it goes, and then this guy has to come out because it's a directional cable. And I remember telling our front of house guy at the time, Braxton Henry.
I know Braxton, yeah.
So like I was telling him, like he said they're directional, and Braxton was like, bullshit. So we one night we switched the tape. We put we put them in the other way. And he's going through it. He played about 3 songs and he came up to the talk back. And he's like, he used to call me Big Bad Burn. Hey, Big Bad Burn, did you put the cables in the right way? And I just nodded my head like, yeah, something's off. We
That's
played the rest of the show. During the encore, I went and switched him back. And he came out and he goes, what'd you do? And I go, I switched him back, and he said, perfect. And he's like, let's not let that happen again. After the show, I go up to Braxton. I was like, man, he knew. Like he came up to the talkback mic 3 or 4 times asking me if they were, they what was going on. It's like he
yeah.
heard it. And I'm like,
Did you
and
come
I
clean?
would say like the blessing that I got starting this business is I worked for someone who heard shit that no one else heard, which was
That's
Chris Scrobot.
that's amazing. I cannot wait to tell him that we
Yeah.
talked. That's awesome. Well, I mean, that's like the well, I guess did you come clean and tell him?
Oh, he knew. Yeah, I told him. I was like, I did it by accident. I didn't tell him we did it on purpose. I didn't tell him we were screwing with him.
That's awesome.
But I love that guy. Like I said, man, I saw those guys in Vegas in 23 they were there for the big rodeo thing. They were playing a show there. I met Michael Tuck. I
Mm-hmm.
took them all uh, shirts with my podcast logo on there.
Nice.
This is another story about Michael. About a couple of months later, a friend of the show's, Denise Simpson, sends me a picture of him wearing my shirt. And
Uh-huh.
she always wears our shirt. Like she's got three or four. She's always wearing it. And they were like, oh, yeah. And then he's like, oh, yeah, I met him in Vegas, you know. And then my son came up here with his best friend, came here when we moved to Connecticut. And his friend was wearing the same shirt. And Michael they had a layover at Nashville. Excuse me. And Michael said, hey, I've got that same shirt. Just complete strangers.
That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
But to me, it's like the shirt's working.
Absolutely, absolutely, man. That's
But
so
yeah,
cool.
they were, Pat has always backed himself with amazing musicians. He's always had a great band. I had the pleasure of working for him and just witnessing a lot of really cool stuff. The Hang, they taught me so much about being on a bus
Mm-hmm.
that later on in my career, when I was in a van, like I
Uh-huh.
appreciated it even more. Like, you know,
Yeah.
but I
Did
got to go backwards and be in a van. But yeah,
did
so when I found out you were playing for Pat, I was so stoked, man, because that's a
oh man.
good set. Except for that tour manager, man, he can be a real ass sometimes.
That's funny. I was just texting Brad earlier. I love to mess with Brad. Like it's so funny. And then he'll mess with me back, but he's got a pretty good poker face to where like I can't tell if he's screwing with me or not sometimes. And we'll just I don't know, just mess with each
Yeah,
other. He's
Brad is a one of a kind, man.
yeah.
He's such a great guy. I
Yeah,
don't know if
he
I should. I'll tell you a story about Braxton when we get off.
okay, cool.
But
Um I
it's a
guess
hilarious story. I don't think I
did,
should tell it on if in case he listens. He might not
yeah,
want it out there. It's a
maybe
hilarious
not.
story though.
Well, you got to tell me if you can't. What were you saying? The wrong place, right time, sort of thing. How you got the Pat gig?
You know what? It has to do with Brad too. I was a runner. I used to do runner work at Starplex
Uh huh.
in Dallas,
Yeah.
whatever it's called now. I don't know, but it's always going to be Starplex.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and Pat was opening for Willie Nelson, and he was coming in the day before, and they were going to let him rehearse on stage. It was a big deal. And Pat and Willie had this really great. They have a really great relationship, but they needed a runner. So my friend Davies called me and he goes, "Can you do Friday, Saturday, Friday and Saturday?" So the rehearsal was on Friday. I picked everyone up at the airport, brought them to the gig. They did their tech day basically,
Uh-huh.
and then the band came in and rehearsed a little bit, and then I did the show day. And Sean Murray, who was the guy, asked me. He said, "What have you ever been on the road?" And I said, "No." And he goes, "Well, I got a couple of different things. I got this guitar tech gig, which I know you could do." He goes, "But I'm losing my merch guy." Brad was his merch guy at the time.
Yeah.
Was Pat's merch guy. And I said, "Yeah, man, whatever." You know, and I was just like kind of taken aback, um, because everyone knew Pat was huge in Texas, still is huge. You know, he's
Yeah.
kind of an institution there. And Sean called me into the production office and he introduced me to Brad. And he goes, "This is the guy you'll be taking over for, and he'll contact you, and then you'll come out and do." And Brad just gave me this look, like not a very not a very pleasant look.
I know that
He
look.
he laughs at me because he goes, "Man, oh man, I wasn't mad."
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, because I told him, I was like, "Man, I thought you were a dick." The way he looked at me, and then anyway, it ended up I didn't get the merch gig, but I got the guitar tech gig,
Nice.
and you know. The rest, as they say, is history.
Yeah.
But I love that, like I said, Pat. Had I not had that opportunity to be a runner that day, um, I wouldn't have met Pat. I wouldn't have
Yeah.
met any of those guys. I think for years after I worked with Pat, after I left Pat, me and Scrobot were still friends, and my phone, and my contact in his phone was still Bernie Runner. Like, dude, I like we've shared all these times, and you can't even put my last name in there. I'm not a runner. I'm not your runner anymore, Scrobot.
That's funny.
And it probably
Man,
still says that too.
I'll have to ask him. I can't wait to ask him that too. That must have been whenever Brad took, I guess, like you're saying, Brad took over the tour manager gig.
Yeah.
And he has a hilarious story about that to where he's just like, yeah, because I had asked him not too long ago. I was like, so how'd you get the Pat gig? He's like, oh, well, I was doing merch, and then it came to the point they needed a tour manager, and then upper management they were like, hey, we're looking for a new tour manager, and would love you to do it. And he's like, oh, I'm not interested. I actually don't want to do it. And then they're like, okay, cool, we'll get back to you and all that sort of stuff. And he just knew that Pat was wild, and he's just like, I don't want that responsibility.
Yeah.
Then a few days go by, he's like, management hits him up. They're like, okay, cool, well, you got the gig. And he's like, what? No, I don't want to do it. They're like, great, well, you start Monday or whatever
Yeah.
it is. And he's
Because I was
he,
already on
he
there,
got
and,
forced
and
into it.
in the time that he was not taking the gig, they had brought in a Nashville guy.
Uh-huh.
And of course the band just kind of ate him up. And
Yeah.
then they just kind of told Brad, well, you're the new tour manager. And I remember him calling me, and he goes, Big Bad Baron, what time you headed to bus call? And I go, well, I'll be there. And he goes, I'm your new tour manager. I was
That's
like,
awesome.
I was like, thank God, but Brad
Well,
is such, and I love Paige, his wife. It's I still consider all those cats, family.
hopefully we get an opportunity to hang out, all of us together. And there's so many intersections of just friends that I didn't know were part of the Pat camp, like you, like Dave Perez. Do you know Dave?
Dave took over for me when I left. He was
Okay.
he was my replacement.
Oh, that's awesome.
I
Yeah,
had
'cause
never. Somebody told me, call this guy Dave. He'll come in, and I'd gone off to do Josh Ritter,
uh-huh.
and Dave came in, and then I left shortly after that. But I remember I talked to Dave Perez on the phone probably a bunch leading up to it and afterwards, and I met Dave Perez maybe 10 years later.
Uh-huh. That's funny.
Like, I actually met him.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, I was at Trees, and someone came up and go, "Hey man, I want you to meet Dave Perez." And he goes, "Hey, I've wanted to meet you for a while."
That's awesome. Well, I knew Dave from like I whenever I was a teenager, I was going to hang in Deep Ellum a lot, and I loved a lot of those Deep Ellum rock bands, and he was kind of in that crowd, and so I was a fan of like his rock band and some of the guys he was hanging out with. And same with Braxton. Like Braxton had recorded. I didn't know him as Pat's guy until I made the connection later,
Yeah.
but he was recording like for Donnie and Jude and guys like that, doing a lot of the rock recording. And I'd met Pollard years back, and played with T-Bay and you, and man, it's just, there's all these connections. It's funny.
Yeah, I love Justin, man. He kind of took me under his wing when I was with Pat, and he was a good guy. He's a good guy to
Yeah,
hang out with, and you know,
I've
he's a
got
good.
I've got his one of his drum sets right here.
Oh, really? Yeah,
Yeah,
he's a good dude. I miss Justin. I need to hit him up. Mike Warren also worked for Pat. Do you know Mike, Metal
I
Mike?
don't. Mm-mm.
Um, he took over. He was a guitar tech and then filled in on guitar. But yeah, all those guys, man. It's a great hang on that bus.
Yeah.
For years, the internet, the Wi-Fi on that bus was Cobra Strike. It's because Pat and I used to have this thing where it was almost like that scene from Family Guy when Peter's fighting the chicken.
Uh-huh.
You ever see that? And they're just
Uh-uh.
fighting everywhere. And
Oh
like,
no, no, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
so
totally.
Pat would get on the bus, and he and I would just start wrestling,
Uh-huh.
and he would jump up and he would go Cobra Strike, you know, and they named it. But yeah, so we for years their Wi-Fi was called Cobra Strike because of that. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with those guys. You're in good hands, is what I'm saying.
Absolutely, man. I'm loving it. Well, tell me, what is your touring schedule like nowadays?
Man,
What?
I don't tour as much as um I'm still doing the Duran thing.
Yeah.
They don't tour heavily like they used to. I just recently did the Gary Clark Jr., but I had to cut that short. I had to fly
Uh-huh.
home. Um, but before that, in 23, I did the U2 Sphere run.
Yeah.
So I was Adam Clayton's second tech. He has a long time tech of like 30 plus years,
Yeah.
and they brought me in, so I was the second bass tech. But that to me is the pinnacle of
Yeah.
I mean fucking U2, man.
I
But
know, dude.
but I
Especially
still do
here.
Duran Duran. Like I said, we've got a few things coming. We got a UK run in October, November, and
Uh-huh.
then some West Coast states at the end of the year.
That's cool.
So not much there going on there.
Yeah. Well, I'm jealous you get to go to the UK. One thing that I haven't gotten to check off my bucket list is playing in like in Europe or places like that. That's the only downside of country is it's really just a states thing. Well, I mean, it's broadened for sure. Like actually with Granger, we played in Australia a couple times. We played all over Canada. And we
Did
we
he
did
never did the country to country in London?
no, they were in talks to do that at one point, but
Yeah,
it never happened. But I've got a lot of friends that have done that. But a lot of my friends that are in the rock world, they're getting to go all over all over Europe. And one of my best friends tour manages a lot of rock bands, and he's like in Europe like 3 months out of the year. I'm just
and
like, that's
Ryan.
yeah, yeah, of course. I mean,
I
Ryan.
know I know Ryan.
Yeah, Ryan Coggin, he's living his dream, getting to play or getting to TM all these big rock bands.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but yeah, all the time he's like, yeah, I'm in Belgium, yeah, I'm in Amsterdam or yada yada. I'm just like, oh, that's cool. I'm in Abilene, or whatever it is.
I'm in
So
Conroe.
yeah, totally. But but so maybe I'll get to check that off my bucket list at some
You
point.
will, man. You're young. You're young and you're talented and I think you will. I'll keep my
Yeah.
ear out for you.
Yeah, man. A crazy story about Ryan recently is Ryan. He was doing a fill-in TM gig. He might still be on this tour, but he's with a rock band right now called Kim Dracula.
Yeah.
Um, his main tour manager gig is Motionless in White.
Yeah.
They're huge right now. And in between tours, sometimes he'll do some one-off tours for other bands that are under that management. So he's been with this band for a few weeks called Kim Dracula, and they're releasing some buses from I'm pretty sure it was like Adam Perry buses. Anyway, some buses from Texas,
Did it
and
catch fire?
yeah, that bus was he texted me a couple weeks ago. He's like, "Hey, I'm in your old bus." It was Granger's old bus that I'd been lived on for like 5 years. This bus called Montana, and so he texted me. He's like, "I'm on your bus," and he's sending me pictures. And I'm just like, "Man, still looks the same, crazy." And then he texted me a week later at like 7 in the morning, and he texted me a picture of the bus all smoked out, and he's just like, "Here's your bus," and it had caught fire like 5 in the morning or something like
Yeah, I
that.
read about that. I didn't know he was with those cats. I'll have to
Yeah.
text him later.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're all safe and whatnot. I mean, it's been a pain for him just as far as like just losing all these, like everybody losing these small things like, their wallets or all these other random things. But everybody's safe,
Yeah,
so that's all
that's
that
the
matters.
important thing.
But yeah, seeing those pictures of that bus, like it's just crazy how quick it goes too. And what was crazy too is like he sent me the picture, and then I sent it to the Granger guys. And then one of them pointed out, they're like, "Why is the slide out?" and it's because it just gets so hot it busted out the windows, pushed the slide out and everything, and man, it's crazy. But so that was very random that it happened to be one of my best friends on my bus.
Right.
So
Kind of suspect there.
I know, right?
Well, brother, thank you so much, man, for talking to me today. It was really great catching up
Yeah.
with you. I'm super proud of you, man. Like I say,
Well,
I do keep up with what you're doing, and so I'm super proud of everything you've done. Uh, I just have one more question. It's by the way, I love your hat. Great
oh,
guitar.
thanks, man. Yeah,
Quite possibly some of the best guitars on the earth.
agreed,
Yeah.
agreed.
Um, our podcast, it's called "Is Breakfast Included?" And if we were having breakfast, what would you have?
Ooh, man, I'm pretty simple. I love like a good omelet or some sort of just like traditional breakfast with lots of coffee. That would be the main thing is just bottomless coffee. But yeah, I eat eggs every morning, bacon, not bacon every morning, but if I'm eating out, if we were going to like I don't know, IHOP, wherever whatever fancy place we would go. But
I
something
forgot you're in
simple.
Waxahachie now. And
Yeah, I
IHOP
know,
is
right?
fancy.
Yeah, yeah, that's the date night place or
Right
date
on.
morning. What would you get?
I get pancakes, but lately I've been having oatmeal.
Nice.
It shows my age. I'm just like, oh, give me some oatmeal.
Do you put like flax seeds in it or whatever
No,
fancy stuff?
no, I'm oatmeal, but I'm kids oatmeal. So I put some brown sugar in there, whatever like almonds or walnuts. I don't
Perfect.
put raisins in there. But just some brown sugar and whatever nuts are available, and then I drink coffee with a lot of cream.
That's awesome. I've
Yeah,
been
I'm
having
I'm a truck stop coffee I'm not a coffee connoisseur. I was just
me
with
neither.
the Gary Clark Jr. guys, and those guys are coffee. Like there's a guy that carries around his own coffee thing in a Pelican. It's like a pour over, and they're
Yeah,
making them. They make them, and I'm like, they said, "You want coffee?" I'm like, "You'd waste that on me."
totally.
I'm just gonna.
Yeah, I'll drink nice coffee if it's there, but coffee is supposed to be one of those things to me that it's just like good good coffee is just whatever you have a lot of. Like to me is just like that's
Yeah.
all I want.
Well, I'm going to say this, and then we'll let you go. Coffee serves one purpose to me, and I'm not going to say it on the air.
Okay. I love it, dude.
Well,
Well, hey,
brother, it was good
well,
talking to you.
likewise, I hope we get to have actual breakfast in person, not just hypothetically.
For sure, man. Next
Sure.
time I'm in town, I'll hit you up.
Awesome.
All right.
Likewise, dude.
Take care.
You too, man.
Right on. John Marlin. That was a lot of fun just catching up with an old friend who I haven't talked to in a while. You can find out what he's doing on Instagram at John Marlin or check out his website, johnmarlin.com. See what he's doing. See if he can offer you anything if you're in that area, the DFW area. While you're online, go to isbreakfast.com. You can follow our show on Facebook and Instagram. Rate and review our show. Give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. I'm just going to quit beating around the bush. Just give us 5 stars. Leave a great comment about us. Go to YouTube, subscribe, hit that notification button, and check out what we have to offer. And while you're there, pick up a piece of swag, a shirt, perhaps. Or, hey, we're selling onesies now for your kids, for all you people out there having babies. All right, guys, I am done. I want to thank John for taking time to talk to me. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next week.